And
Truly, by the grace of the saints on earth and in heaven.
Yeah.
Like truly, genuinely, like that was a big moment for me as I was discerning Catholicism. And Father Gregory Pine gives us a talk. I watch it on YouTube alone in my room at like 2 a.m. while I'm playing Battlefield on my computer. And he says...
That's so romantic.
Yeah,
dude.
thank you. And he says God implicates everyone in the plan of salvation.
Yeah.
And I had this moment where it all clicked for me where like, you know, we're dealing with original sin and we're all in this together. And God he wants you as an individual. He loves you as a person. He sees you as a completely unique and unrepeatable individual, but he sees us and he wants us to participate together. It's not about me and my personal practice at home, reading the Bible, and then going to heaven. It's about me bringing everyone I can with me and us loving each other the way he loves us.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Logos Podcast. This is Deacon Max.
This is Deacon Joseph.
And on today's episode, we definitely have the most mediocre guest we've ever had on, up to date. And he goes by the name of Shayne Smith. Is that right?
That's correct.
Shayne Smith.
Shayne of Smith.
Shayne of
Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sick, dude.
I kinda
Sick,
like
Thank
that.
you.
That's good.
Thank you.
Like
Yeah, so today we have Shayne, who we found just in the middle of the streets here of where we're at. We're going to be talking about kind of comedy in the Christian life and just have some fun.
Yeah, Shayne, we're really pumped that you're here. Thanks for being on the
Dude, I'm
podcast
super
with
pumped
us.
to be here. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, we've
Has
been in
been.
contact for a while now.
Yeah, we've been working on it.
Yeah, but it's really awesome that this finally came together. For those of you who are new to Logos Podcast, if this is your first time, welcome.
What's up?
We're glad that you're here. This podcast is about introducing you to the Logos, the truth, and we do that through showing you the truth, goodness, and beauty of the intellectual and spiritual tradition of the Catholic Church primarily. And today we're going to be reflecting on somebody who's a recent convert to the Catholic Church.
That's right.
And,
Recent-ish.
Recent-ish. I guess it was last Easter, right?
It feels recent, especially when I hang out with people who are like, I was Catholic when I was born. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I've been Catholic for like almost a year.
Yeah. I saw this video on your Instagram, you talking about the experience of getting to say Merry Christmas this year.
Yeah. That
Man.
video made people angry
Did it? Really?
at me. Yeah, it was
I thought
crazy.
it was so funny.
Yeah, I thought it was funny too. I was like, this is silly. It's benign. People who aren't even Christian will think it's silly, like, because it was a very lighthearted, like in the moment type video. I had
Right.
just gotten back from the gas station where some lady was like, Happy Holidays, and I was like, Merry Christmas, and she was like, oh boy, and then she started saying it, and then the other dude is like, there's this guy that owns a gas station, and he has like the thickest like accent ever. He's from like Afghanistan or something, and he was like, Merry Christmas, like, and everyone was popping off, going Merry Christmas mode. I thought it was sick, and I came home and I was like so pleased with myself that I smashed her Happy Holidays and raised her a Merry Christmas, and then she was so hype, and I made that video just being like, how fun is that?
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, our Lord. We're celebrating Christmas. We're in America. This is our tradition, whatever.
Yeah.
And people were like, no one's trying to take Christmas from you. Or like, I don't know. They just made it a political thing.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And I was like, I didn't say any of those things. And they just insinuate what they think the type of person you are in their own mind or whatever.
Right.
And so,
Man.
Well, it's still a Christmas season, so I'm going to say to you, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry freaking Christmas, my man.
All right, Shayne. So you are a pretty well-known guy, but maybe not all of our listeners have heard of you. So first, just like, who are you? Tell us a little about yourself. Where are you from? What's your
I'm a
deal?
comedian. And being a comedian is interesting because you are well known, but it's a niche.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being in like a punk band. You're famous depending on where you are,
Yeah.
you know, because
Yeah.
it's like, it's very niche. So I am from Utah, which is where we are right now.
Which is sick.
Shout
Welcome
out.
to my favorite place on earth.
Beautiful area. Never been here before.
Yeah.
The mountains are
It's
nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
If you go down south, it gets way cooler.
You're
So
not-
like,
you're not kidding. You're not kidding.
yeah, literally it gets colder. It's cold. It's winter 6 months out of the year if you go down south further. Well, kind of here too, but Utah is huge. Like it's like the size of half the East Coast. Right? It's like wild.
Yeah, it's
but
big.
there's only 2 million people who live here, and almost all of them live in this valley we're in right now. So if we go down south, there is about like a North and a South Carolina worth of space that has about maybe 200,000 people living in it.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know
So
that.
it's incredibly barren as far as like people, and I grew up there. So I grew up riding horses and shooting guns and blowing things up and not having rules, and so I love it here. That's my jam. I'm trying to get back here. Yeah, dude, for real. Hey, listen, they say Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid retired in the town I grew up in. That's our legend in the town. Whoa. Yeah.
And now they can say Shayne Smith.
So I literally there's only 2 people who have ever been like popular or whatever that are where I'm from, and one of them was a pro baseball player. So no one cares about me. They're all concerned about this baseball player. I've got nothing going. No one cares. Yeah, I always thought as I began to get more popular, I was like, oh man, dude, my first comedy special like got viewed like 34 million times or something crazy, and you're like, that happens to you as a regular person. You don't know how to process it. But I remember one of the things I was like, dude, I'm from this tiny town. Everyone in my town is poor. Almost everyone is poor. I made it. I did something. Yeah. They're going to call me. I got to go to that high school and talk to those kids. Like in my head, like that's how it happens.
The news channels
or whatever. Yeah.
The guy.
No one has even kind of contacted me. I've gone back to town. I'll go to like a gas station and I'll be like, hey. And like, I'll be like, whatever. And they'll be like
728.
I'll ask them a question. I'll be like, so are the hot pots open right now? Like a question only a local would know, and they'd be like, are you from here? And I'm like, oh, come on, man. I'm important, I think, maybe. So that's very funny.
Dang.
So yeah, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, real poor, trailer park kid. Ended up in Salt Lake, and just a real weird guy. Had nothing going on, covered in tattoos. I'd lived like a life of crime, and had a felony or whatever happens to people. Something, it's hard to get a job.
So like felony or whatever. What does that mean? There's a lot of there.
Or whatever is when the courts. No, I had like a mixed past, and then I look like this. So getting a job was a real problem for a while, and so I decided to try comedy. And I hate school. I didn't graduate.
High school?
You guys knew that, but. Some context clues. I got my GED, so technically I am.
Yeah, that's
so,
right.
As you know, there's a guy at our seminary who argues this up and down. He says, dude, high school is a freaking scam. He goes, leave high school, get a GED, take that test, and you're done. You don't have to go all 4 years.
You can work.
You're chilling. I don't know. We don't advocate for that necessarily. It's just an interesting theory.
Option. It worked out for you.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem sometimes like education is a scam. I think that getting educated is not a scam. That's what you have to preface. You go, maybe education is a scam. Getting educated is never a scam.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anything you learn, no matter how useless it seems, that's good. But high school's a scam.
So you got into comedy because you had no other options, or did you
can't
always
sing or dance, dude?
Did you try?
No, I literally had no other options, and I was kind of like, I was working as a bouncer, and I was working at a factory, and like I was working with kids with disabilities. I had all these jobs, and I'm making $8 an hour.
Yeah,
I'm miserable. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Things aren't going good, and I'm just like, what do I do with myself? I had no higher purpose. I went from when I was like a criminal. We're just going to speak in broad terms to protect the innocent in myself, in my past. But like, it's like being in the military. It's a ton of purpose. You have a job to do. It's exciting. People respect you. You have a bunch of brothers who would die for you. You have a community. Women find that interesting. They like that. So you have respect. That's why people in poor areas would rather shoot at each other than work at McDonald's, because we live in a society that has like stolen the dignity from many jobs. And so there's more dignity in being like an uneducated, kind of like awful guy who robs people than in earning an honest living as like a line chef at McDonald's or whatever, which is a problem with our culture. All jobs have dignity. And so if we could get back to that, we would solve a lot of society's ills, I think. But so, I went from being like not a big shot, but feeling purpose-filled and loved and community. And I left that for a lot of reasons that are all obvious to most people. Like, it's not sustainable. It's negative. It's terrible. You realize you're a bad person. My brother was involved, and I was kind of like, I was watching him, and it sort of gave me the ability to look at myself and be like, well, I don't want him in this.
Okay.
So why am I in this?
Is he younger than you?
He's a little younger than me.
Okay,
Yeah. And so, and my older brothers are involved too, but watching my younger brother be that guy, I'm like, oh no, we have to get out. And he's the kindest, most empathetic person I've ever met. It's crazy. And so he immediately was like, I've been wanting out. I'm only here because you're here.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm only here because you're here. So we left, but my life had no direction. And I was like, I gotta go to trade school. I was like, I'm not doing that. And I was so poor, I'm not gonna go to college. And then I'm like, well, I can't play music or anything. And I decided to try comedy. I was like, whatever, I could try this. At least I'll have a goal. I'll have something I'm working towards, even if I'm working a job and doing comedy. And so I went to open mic and it went really well. And I was
had
like,
people told you before, like, hey, you're a funny guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was always like the class clown.
Okay.
I was very like, that was my humor was my weapon. I was always the guy that like, don't insult him. He's going to hurt your feelings in school, that kind of guy. And so.
It's like Deacon Max.
Yeah.
I hurt his feelings all the
My
time.
feelings a lot.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I had issues with that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I ended up, I pushed a button on my mic. I hope it's still working. But,
Still working? We good?
Yeah, I think
It's fine.
Yeah.
All
I
good.
could feel buttons clicking, and I was like, "Ooh, this is satisfying, but it's wrong."
All there is
I
is
know
up.
it. I know I shouldn't be
up and
clicking
down
these
right here at the
buttons.
bottom. So you're
Yeah. But in any case, I was just like, I got to do something. So I tried it. It went well, and I'm mentally ill in the way that like if I do something, I do it the whole way, and I'm really good at sort of knowing when I'm about to generate a permanent choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew I wanted lots of tattoos before I had lots of tattoos.
Oh, got you. It was intentional.
I knew I never wanted to drink when I made the decision to stop drinking when I was 14, and I've stuck with that.
Really?
So yeah, I'm really good at like I'm gonna make a permanent decision right now, and I'm gonna commit. Boom, and I'll do it.
That's like insane. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. One of
You
my
call it a mental illness, but I'm like, it's a superpower. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and so I've done that with a lot of weird small things, like sports or whatever, or like commitments. But I knew when I did comedy, I was like, no, I'm committed to this. I'm gonna see it through to its conclusion, whatever that may be. And so I put all my resources into it. I was saving up money even though I was so poor, and I was going to shows every weekend. So every Friday and Saturday I'd go see a headlining show at the comedy club to watch comedy and learn. And I basically started studying comedy like it was my job and treating it like I was in school, and I got good fast, and here I am.
Here you are.
So top 3 most influential comedians in your personal life.
Top 3 most influential comedians in my personal life. Before I started comedy, it would have been, and these answers are going to sound like I'm trolling, but I'm being 100 million% serious. Okay.
I might not even know any of
The
them.
Muppets, number 1.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
All right.
big time.
Unexpected.
The Muppets are huge for me. So funny, still so good. They accomplish so much with so little. They're
Resourceful.
Dude, they're not even human. How do they do it? And so Dave Chappelle was huge for me.
Oh, yeah, he's
yeah,
my
man.
man.
Dave Chappelle was really, really, really big. And then
You ever met him?
no. Well, no, that's a lie. I met him.
Okay.
He wouldn't know me,
Okay.
but I met him in passing.
Gotcha.
Like we're like all in a room hanging out as comedians. Like, what's up? I'm Shayne. I'm Dave. Whatever, and we all kind of hang out and talk. But, and then for my third, it might be Leslie Nielsen.
I don't know.
Oh wow.
You know
I
that?
thought he was going to say Deacon Max from Logos Podcast. I was convinced that was the next.
Well, I mean, you asked him about growing up.
That's
He's
true.
older than you,
That's
so
true.
now probably
now
you're
I'm
the most.
top 5 for sure.
As I began to get into comedy, then like Mulaney had a huge effect on me. Kevin Hart
Kevin Hart
had a huge effect on me. He's a storyteller. He's really
Yeah, he is,
interesting. He does a lot with a little. I love that so much about him. And he has a style that at the time was so specific to him. And even like he would tell a joke about having kids. And like, well, I remember being young, being like, boring. It's like when people get mad at men for not wanting to hear women do comedy about women stuff. It's like, it's not necessarily that you're sexist. It's just you're not interested. How am I relating to this? I don't know what you're talking about.
That's true.
So Kevin, when I would hear comedians do like dad stuff or whatever, I'd be like, yo. But Kevin Hart I would love those bits.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so interesting that he's taking an experience I don't even want to have at the time. I'm so far away from it, making me laugh and be interested in it when I kind of roll my eyes at it sometimes. And I remember thinking specifically, I need to be able to do that. That's what comedy is.
Can I ask you an opinion?
Yeah.
What's your opinion of Theo Von?
Theo Von's one of my favorite guys.
Dude, he's so good.
I got to open for him.
Nice.
He's great. Yeah, I'm sober and he's sober, so we had an intersection. We're both white trash in different ways. He's relaxed white trash. I'm motorcycle white trash. So
You're active and on the road.
Different brands.
Yes. So we're both the different types of guys you find at a trailer park at a party.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So shit, beer pong.
Yeah.
Maybe not the same team, maybe the same team, but definitely at the beer pong table.
Definitely, yeah, chilling.
Shirts off.
Shirts off 100%.
You're yelling, he's not.
It's crazy I have a shirt on right now.
Oh, yeah?
Actually, I'm not joking. I performed at Seek in DC, and they were like, this is weird, but make sure to keep your shirt on. And I was like, thank you for telling me. There's not a 0% chance I won't take it off. It happens. Yeah, like I was like...
Unlike when Usher performs. Then
Unlike when
there's a
Usher.
100% chance.
Or Mark Wahlberg at 4:30 a.m. anywhere in the world.
right.
Always shirtless and in some ice somewhere.
Shout out to Mark, who is one of the celebrities that put Catholicism on my map,
Yeah,
for sure.
good.
Father Stu.
Yeah, Father Stu. Yeah, I saw Father Stu.
It was
and I
upon
like,
that story you were like, I want to be a priest. I can do this easy.
That's yeah, 100%. I saw it and I was like, I could do this. If Father Stu could do it, I could do it.
Okay, but yeah, I want to talk more about comedy, but let's just pause on that for a minute. So you became Catholic.
I became
recently.
Catholic. Recently.
Listeners can go and like
Last Easter.
hear that story on Pints of Aquinas. You've told it. It's beautiful, but just like give us an overview of like what that experience was like and how it's been since becoming Catholic.
Yeah. I think it'll be more interesting to how it's been. I think people are always for those of you who don't know, you can go watch that. But basically, I was a very secular person, and I began to see that my life was not getting better. And I've talked about this a bunch, but I didn't understand the difference between like fulfillment and joy and happiness and pleasure. I thought those were the same things, as almost all secular people do. And so I was living a life where it was so full of pleasure, but I was very depressed. And I'm thinking to myself, what is up with this? And then eventually I start to see patterns where a lot of my Christian friends were very happy, but very tired. And I was like, well, but happy and tired is better than joyful and depressed.
Huh.
What an interesting dichotomy. I'm like, it's almost like there's something to what they're doing that's better than what I'm doing. That looks better for sure. And I looked into it, and it seemed like Christianity was the thing. And so I was like, okay, I was a very edgy sort of like Christopher Hitchens atheist guy. And then on top of that, I've always been really into heavy metal and stuff. So the aesthetic of like Satanism and all these things was cool to me, which you don't realize is lifted from Memento Mori. It is Catholic aesthetics turned on their head to try and be bad, but
We're the OG Gothics.
yeah, for real. And so, well, here's a funny thing. One of the small little pushes towards Christianity for me that made it so that I did have the humbleness in order to be like, I'm wrong about all this stuff is I had lots of Christian friends, but in the heavy metal scene, the heaviest, most gnarly, out of control bands are all Christian.
I've heard you say that.
All
before.
Christian. And that is a fact. I mean, one of the best Christian bands just released a new song, and it's so unreal heavy that everyone in the metal scene, the non-Christians suffer just like, these guys are what? Like, this bangs. This is crazy. They're called Impending Doom, guys. Check them out. They're very good. But like, so because of that, there was this sort of masculinity in my mind attached to Christianity that sort of allowed me to be like, I have permission to get into this.
Yeah.
Because when you're so wrong about something, you want to fight it, you know?
Right.
But I was like, these guys are cool, whatever, I'm going to get into this. So I begin to discern it. And
So it was an interest with like Christianity generally at
generally,
first.
yes. Because don't forget, I grew up in America. I grew up in Utah. I have a very Protestant idea of how faith works. I didn't even understand the saints or anything like that. And so I start to discern Christianity. I start to look into like truth claims about the resurrection and stuff. I start to look into like Christian history. I'm like, oh man, it feels like Christians are the good guys and the Western civilization and all these good things. And everywhere Christians go, women do better, society does better, inventions I'm like, the fruits of Christianity are undeniable. So from a logical perspective, I begin to see, okay.
It's at least credible.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Then I'm looking at the resurrection claims, and I'm like, there's a lot of evidence. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Then I look into the arguments for God, Kalam, all these other things.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, so you got me. Deism 100%. I'm in. God got me. Like, this is undeniable. It's illogical not to believe in God. It's very silly even. So now I'm a deist. I've moved more towards Christianity. I'm becoming more Christian.
And you're like reading a bunch.
I'm reading a ton.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of out. I'm still whatever. Deism is it, and I'm almost like a not a Unitarian. Those
Universalist.
Universalist. Yeah, Unitarians are embarrassing. Universal. Sorry, I don't mean to be uncharitable and rude to another group of people of faith.
Charity is truth. This is a thing.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Sorry, guys, you're a little embarrassing, and so we all know it, and so they know it. I know they know it, and so it's like when you tell Mormons, you're like, you guys are dorky, and they're like, yeah, we know.
And I love you because you can admit that.
Yeah. That's cool of them to own it. And so, universalism. And so I'm in that space. I was even on a very popular podcast where I spoke about how I just been really into that before I became Catholic. And so, I'm discerning. And then my grandfather dies. My grandfather's from Switzerland. I didn't really know anything about his religious past because he was just like this hardcore dude who just worked all the time, but he's the best man I've ever known. Took care of his dying wife from cancer, took care of everyone in his life, never said anything bad about anyone. He's the best man of all time, like truly a saint. And so he dies. I've become overwhelmed with this need to like go to church, but not just church, Catholic church, specifically like a church. I'm not thinking about going to like the warehouse where people do worship music. I'm thinking about the chapel. I'm thinking about churches. So obviously now we know he's interceding on my behalf.
Yeah.
But at the time I'm confused why I'm having dreams and weird compulsions to go to church. The Holy Spirit's moving in my life. I went to church randomly one day. A
Catholic church.
And it was a Spanish parish.
Oh,
Shout out.
La gente.
Yeah.
We everywhere. Y'all think we everywhere.
Yeah.
It's so true.
I go in, I begin to pray for the first time in years and years and years. I'm having like an emotional experience and I'm sort of like, something's going on. And then Our Lady appears to me. I have an experience that felt like it was hours long and 2 seconds long. And the more I try and tell people about it, the less I'm able to tell people about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I told Matt Fradd about it, and I think that's the most I've ever articulated it ever. And since then, every time I try to articulate it more, I lose the ability. It's really interesting.
That's fascinating.
And I can just feel it. And I know, but anyway, it was just incredible.
It's a huge claim that we're just going to like let you keep going on because
I know.
Mary appeared to me and then but if you want to hear the full story, go check it out on Pints with Aquinas.
It is a huge claim. All you need to know is I felt Our Lady in physical space. It was a bright light. I was alone with her and she just reached out and touched me and healed me and I became Catholic in an instant. It was a permanent decision that was made in that moment. And and here I am.
Here you are.
So,
Isn't Mary so freaking awesome?
It's incredible. I mean, but to be not necessarily graphic, but I went from someone who was like incredibly struggled with lust in every way possible and had infinite access to women because of my position on the internet and how I was, infinite access to pornography and all these other things.
Yep.
And I was using them all the time to a person who doesn't. Like instantaneously healed, changed the way I look at women, the way I feel about my relationship with my mother. It just, in an instant, changed things that were at the core of my being that I didn't even realize I would have been struggling with for the rest of my life. So,
and by the touch of a woman.
By the touch of a woman. And it was incredible. And since then, it was beautiful. And it was a moment in time that, I'm so thankful for. And it was crazy. And so after that, I began to pursue the faith, look into Catholicism. Now I'm watching apologists. I'm reading a Trent Horn book. Jimmy Akin's telling me stuff, whatever. I start to watch these weirdos on the show called Pints with Aquinas. And,
they are weirdos.
And I began to get, decide I need to go to RCIA and get catechized. I'm going crazy. I'm one of those converts that was like running the RCIA class. Like the ladies, like, what do you think about this? That kind of thing.
Because you're so well read.
I had been absorbing. I was reading the Summa.
You're the worst kind of person to be in that class.
For sure. So the other converts would be like, oh, great. Now we got to talk about the Trinity for 45 minutes longer because Shayne's here. That kind of thing. And so.
Who let him in this freaking joint?
For real. And so I did that. And then I got baptized. And I just haven't slowed down. I've just been kept going. And Catholicism, at first I was like, okay, well, a big part of what made me popular in comedy was being very authentic, because I was authentic about my struggles with depression. I was pretty authentic about, at the time, I would call it now my struggles with lust, but at the time I was just being masked off about the kind of person I was, who was a degenerate that didn't care.
Like, you just like walk up on stage and people see you and you're like, this guy's not afraid to like be real in front of us, right?
Totally. So that was a huge part of like what made me popular and drew people to me. So I felt compelled to be honest about my experience, because I first thought Christianity was like my ideas about how religion worked were sort of Zen Buddhist. Like, this is a very personal thing. And Protestant.
Yep,
very personal.
Private.
This is private. This is for me. And so as I was becoming Catholic, I was like, so this is a personal thing I do. I go to mass. I'm by myself. And I realized I have to share this. It'll be inauthentic if I don't.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking like, I'm going to be an evangelizer. this is a Christian account now. But like, I was like, I have to tell people. So I came out as Christian, which is a funny thing to say.
You did come out.
Right?
Thank you for that. Thank you for coming out.
You're welcome, everybody. And so I thought I'll get some backlash, but who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I started to talk about being Christian, and it was so negative that I was like, if I fully just post that I'm Catholic, it's going to destroy my career. So then I was invited to do the podcast with Pints with Aquinas.
Yep.
And I prayed about it and I thought about it, and I was like, I'm going to destroy my career, like, on purpose. And so the podcast came out, and I could have just let it ride, but I screenshotted the like Shayne Smith becomes Catholic, and it's me and Matt Fradd and a little thing of Cardinal Pell, who people do not like. So I'm like, let's go, let's ruin our career. And I posted it, and people were mad.
How did that feel though on your end?
To get so
well, just because like now you have a sense of conviction about your faith.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm committed to this, and you do that. I mean, was there some sense of freedom in doing that?
Yes.
Or was like a middle finger to the system, like, I'm doing this?
I think it was both.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm thinking of like Abraham sacrificing Isaac on the mountain, right? And like thinking, okay, like, Lord, I'm going to give this to you.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
I think that there was this part of me that was like, what do I want? Like, do I want money? Do I want more money for being a comedian, or more attention? Like, I don't care about any of these things. And I was sort of just like, I know what matters, and I should act on that. And so I just went for it, and people hated it. Yeah. I mean, for real, man. I got canceled. I got death threats, and people who were my friends, or like, when you're a comedian and you guys know you have a show, how many like just kind of fans do you have? And they check up with you, or they reply to your stories, and they become people in your story, and you might not be actually close friends, but you're like a sort of acquaintance. And over a year of interacting with them, even though you don't talk a lot, or you only hear from each other once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever, they become important to you. When you see them, you're like, oh, that person. And you look at what they're up to. I had 100, 200, 300 of those types of people. That to have all those people tell me I'm evil, they're disappointed in me, they hate me, that affects you emotionally. Like,
for sure.
It was brutal.
Ugh.
And so I had a lot of that. I had close friends question me, be mad, not want to be my friend. I got canceled off of shows. I had people calling comedy clubs saying I can't perform there anymore. And then, people infer like, well, you're Catholic, so are you pro-life? I'm going to attack you for that now. Oh, you're Catholic, you don't believe in, and it was just crazy. The amount of hate I got from every direction possible. I've got, fans who have same-sex attraction.
Yep.
Messaging me and being like, so you hate me now. You don't think I should live. You don't think I have rights. You don't think I have human dignity. And like, how do you feel these questions? And I'm new. I'm not even baptized yet. And I'm like,
yeah, that's right. The episode came out when you were in RCIA.
Exactly. So like, do I defend the faith? Do I try to explain to them? And I'm trying to tell them like, I love you. Yeah. I want the best for you. I'm not advocating for it to hurt your human dignity. I will spend time with you. So like, they didn't want to hear it. And and then you're like, well, am I bad? I hurt all these people. But very, very luckily, we live in a community of people who are moved by the Holy Spirit. And the amount of people who are like, I just want you to know that I prayed for you when I first saw you, or I'm compelled to reach out to you. This is before I started telling people I was getting negativity. The amount of people who were like, I was moved by the Holy Spirit to just tell you that you make my life better. And like, that saved me for real. Like this. So I had this like group of people sort of offset the evil. But I was for a while like, oh, I guess my career's over. Like, because all my fans were these secular people who were interested in my opinions about these old things and that thought like I was a very like that liberal, and this is Satanism, do what thou wilt be the whole of the law. And I was very like, do whatever you want as long as you don't hurt anyone. And everyone loves to hear that.
Oh, that's easy, right?
Because it's easy. It gives them permission to do anything as long as they can convince themselves no one else is being hurt directly in that moment, which is not how life works.
True.
It's not how consequences work. It's not how people work, and it's not how morals work. But now I'm the opposite of that. And so all these people who gravitated towards me for kind of like being like, go off, go do whatever, they're seeing me be like, actually do the opposite of that. You should suffer for love. You should suffer for repent. Repent, believe in the gospel. And so I'm like, no one's going to come see me anymore. My career's over. I lost tens of thousands of followers, death threats, the whole deal. People telling me they have my mom's address. Like, wild,
crazy.
Wild. And then of course I start to get, and then I get all of that from atheists and people who are mad and Satanists and witches telling me they're cursing me, sending me photos of like doing things to my picture, like wild stuff, dude. Where I'm like, spiritual warfare time. Yeah. I need to go get blessings. Like, and then I start to get Protestants showing up being like, just so you know, you're almost there, but you're doing an evil thing. And then they start telling me their conspiracy theories about how like, I don't know, man. It was a rough time.
That I can't imagine because like
you can't imagine Protestants sending conspiracy theories.
No, it's hard enough for like if somebody converts to Catholicism or like makes a decision like this, and their immediate circles, like in their friends and their family, like start to persecute them, and like, but we're in this weird situation where like you're in, like you said, you're in contact with like hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah, and you as an individual have to bear the fact that all of them are turning on you.
Your community is those hundreds of thousands of people that you've been building up for so long.
Yeah, and so to my credit. Or to my fans' credit, many of my fans are people from all walks of life. And so many people, a lot of people truly were like, good for you, man, whatever. Yeah. I'm not Christian, or I am Christian and I'm happy for you, you know. But I got that core group who was so betrayed, and it sucked when I had relationships with these people. Sure. And then they're like, I'm working through this.
I feel like that's how Satan works, right? Yeah. He works to try to lie to people, and lie to you, discourage you in your walk, isolate you, and that's what he wants. Yeah, that's what he wants all of us. Yeah, he wants us to be in that kind of that pothole, he can really attack us and bring us down ultimately to hell. Yeah, but he wants to give us life, and he oftentimes, like you're talking about, the great irony of like committing to that act of publicly saying Catholic, Shayne Smith's Catholic, whatever. Like with it comes a whole army of people supporting you. For sure. And you don't see that at the beginning, right? But that's what's coming too. Exactly. You just think the destruction that's coming, the failures, the rebukes, but what's also coming is life.
Right. And that's the thing, is like how I'm feeling isn't reality. Yeah. That's exactly how I'm feeling isn't reality. And I trusted the process. Yeah. I did. And in trusting the process and making it through that like galvanizes your faith. Right. Like you would I
can't imagine.
I'm in it. Yeah. You know, you're going to have to cut my head off to stop, which is a crazy thing to just say in a podcast, but like, you know, I'm in it for sure. And, that to have all those people say that and to be like, okay, but then over time, you know, you don't got to beat them. You just got to outlast them.
That's right.
And like, I don't need to be Satan. That's someone else's job. I just have to outlast them. Like, and so I just stayed the course. And over time, like many people began to come and tell me positive things. And then I went to a show, and lo and behold, people came to the show still. Lots of my normal fans, you know, lots of these other people. And then now I've got these Catholic fans. Yeah. I had stopped doing meet and greets because I was getting harassed. Women were touching me. People were being weird, inappropriate, yada, yada, yada. I do meet and greets again. My fans now are like this group of like socially aware, kind, beautiful people. They bring me gifts. Like I've got priests showing up to shows. Like it changed my life in such a complete positive way. It's just so funny now to look back at like these people in my comments or in my DMs or sending me handwritten letters. They found my address.
You know how much anger you have to handwrite a letter, dude? Yeah, condemning you. You're like, all right, let me freaking. And they gotta go to the post office. You gotta buy the
with the pen. You gotta put it on the.
You gotta link it. You're like,
yeah,
I'm gonna get his. You know, whatever.
He bought a stamp.
Yes.
You know, have you ever been so mad you buy a stamp? That's crazy, bro.
You have to wait in line. You're like, yeah, can I have like a pack? Yeah, a whole roll, I guess. If you
also,
don't have...
dude, people our age, you know, he had to Google what it looked like to write a letter. Right? Like, we don't know.
Yeah, is it the singeing address on the left-hand side? Is it in the middle? Where's that? Yeah.
So, like, I got these, and I'm getting these, and I'm thinking, but they're like, you know, you're intolerant. This community is just going to use you. You're just going from one extreme to the other. The fruits of this is where you came from. We built you up, or whatever. And I'm thinking, like, you know, that's those scary claims, you know, and then there's a part of you that's like, is that true? And then as time goes by, I'm like, oh, I'm getting all these Christians or fans who are like, I saw your comedy and I liked you and I saw that you were very far away from me in terms of political and religious beliefs, and I prayed for you and I really enjoyed what you did. And I'm like, so you saw that I made art that made you happy, saw that I was a person who maybe you wouldn't want to be around in real life because of we're very opposite in many ways, and you prayed for me. You thought about me intentionally and loved me, and then you still consumed my art and supported me for doing something positive. And now I've got these people who they have the chance to be that person, to show up and be the bigger person, and then they're like, actually, I hate you. I'm going to hurt you because you don't agree with me and say all this negative stuff, and I will never support you. And it's like, so who do I want to be with? The community that didn't agree with me, saw that I was far away from them, chose to love me, and maybe they didn't follow me or whatever. Some people were like, I had to unfollow you because you post stuff that was inappropriate, but I always thought well of you and I prayed for you. Meanwhile, this person over here is like, you can't even just quietly unfollow me. You have to like send me death threats or try to hurt me because I don't agree with you.
Or your family, for that matter.
Yeah, or my family. Which thing seems like the better decision? Which group of people do I want to die in communion with? Which, like, what group do I want to live with?
Yeah.
Who do I want to spend eternity with?
Right.
Who do we even want to spend time on earth with?
Yeah, amen.
Definitely the group that was like, I love you no matter how bad you are. I hope the best for you.
Yeah, I got you this crappy screen printed T-shirt, but I love that. It's
yeah.
good. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So it's gotten better and it's been good.
It has gotten progressively better over time, and now I'm in this niche where everyone who likes me that is secular or Protestant is pretty much on the team. They're like, we're just happy for you. And then now I have all these Catholic fans who are incredible, and I interact with them, and it's leveled out. The people who hate me have sort of like removed themselves. Though I will say every once in a while I'll go viral for posting Merry Christmas, and people will be like, I'm going to kill you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to, or it's just insane, dude. When you're an influencer, quote unquote, I vomited in my mouth a little when I said it. It's so gross to be like, you know, when you're in the public eye, you'll just attract people to you that are insane. And I still do. I will attract people who will be like, actually, the Pope is a lizard. And they'll just say like the craziest thing.
We're laughing about it. It's a serious problem we're having.
Yes.
We need to address this, I think.
It's just so like... And so I deal with that, but it's never overwhelming. It's never really a problem. It's mostly just annoying that people are like uncharitable or gross. And again, that's the thing. Like someone from another Christian tradition will be like, why don't you go with me? Yada, yada, yada. And it's like, well, because you were evil to me just now and you insulted me and you have not even taken the time to like read a page of the catechism or even Google what Catholics believe, and you're telling me I'm evil. Do I want to go with the group of Catholics who I've gone to hundreds of masses, adoration. I've spent thousands of hours with Catholics discussing Catholicism theology. never have randomly someone just been like, did you know Protestants are evil? Like ever, never once. Like
We're not into that.
no, it's like there's no attack. It's so if you're like, which group do I pick?
Yeah.
You know?
We did say the Unitarians were weird, but that's not the same thing.
That's not the same thing.
Saying they're evil.
And you know what? And I would say that there are Catholic holy orders that are weird. So come on.
Sure.
What
Well,
about
I know
those
a Catholic
with the weird things.
I know
What's
Catholic.
going on with
I know
that?
a Catholic deacon. That's super
I
weird.
just knew that was coming.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, none of this is in some sense surprising, right? Because if you think first about the promise of our Lord, like he promises us persecutions, like blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness. There's the kingdom of heaven. And then also like if I'm Satan and I see like this guy who I've had my hand in his life, for so long, and he's got this huge platform.
Yeah.
And now he's about to change teams. Like he's about to go over to the enemy. Like I'm thinking in terms of the screw tape letters.
Yeah.
The screw tape always talking about like the enemy. Like I'm going to do whatever I can to dissuade him from doing that.
Yeah.
And so it makes perfect sense that you face this extreme persecution and like spiritual attack during this time.
Yeah.
But thanks be to God that like you persevere through that. Like that's amazing.
And
truly, by the grace of the saints on earth and in heaven.
Yeah.
Like truly, genuinely, like that was a big moment for me as I was discerning Catholicism. And Father Gregory Pine gives us a talk. I watch it on YouTube alone in my room at like 2 a.m. while I'm playing Battlefield on my computer. And he says...
That's so romantic.
Yeah,
dude.
thank you. And he says God implicates everyone in the plan of salvation.
Yeah.
And I had this moment where it all clicked for me where like, we're dealing with original sin and we're all in this together. And God he wants you as an individual. He loves you as a person. He sees you as a completely unique and unrepeatable individual, but he sees us and he wants us to participate together. It's not about me and my personal practice at home, reading the Bible, and then going to heaven. It's about me bringing everyone I can with me and us loving each other the way he loves us.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier, kind of, you said maybe morbidly or weird to say, but you were talking about like willing to die now for your faith, getting your head chopped off or whatever before you let it go. But this is kind of actually the early Christian appeal.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this community was so tight knit that they were willing to die,
and they did
for their faith claims, and this is part of that beauty of, I think, something that we need to recover as a church is the importance of community.
Yeah.
Because in a world that is so isolated and fragmented, claiming their own self-righteousness and claiming themselves to be gods and capable of building meaning for themselves, we say no. Actually, your meaning is found with this community of believers.
Yeah.
Right, because that's what a life of belief, as Joseph Ratzinger says, faith is to be grounded in a community that's grounded in an identity, who's ultimately the person, the Logos, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
and that's in Him, in that personality, that you find yourself, that your person is given to you.
100%. Yeah, and also we live in late stage capitalism, where we're at a point where basically the system, not even on purpose, but just through the way it works, has removed social places to be, the need to go out and be together and stuff. In so many secular people and just people in our culture, European, American, and modern culture in general, are struggling to, where do we go?
Yeah.
What do we do? How do we get to each other?
Right.
We don't just have a common place anymore.
Yep.
The church is poised. The church is the place. It has the chance to be like in our modern times where you no longer have a place to go. I am the place. I will always be the place. I will not stop being the place. I call you to come here.
I'm like your
physically.
family, I'm like your home.
And it's not just something historical, it's transhistorical. That's a beauty of the church, is that it's something that our Lord entered actually history to establish, but then carries forth in dialogue with heaven eternally. This is the great beauty of this life.
It is. Okay, we could talk about this stuff probably for the next 3 hours, but I want to.
I want to.
Yeah, I know.
I'm into it.
I do want to talk a little bit about comedy with you.
Let's do it, please.
Because,
please.
You're a professional at that, and
that's what I hear.
But you guys talk to like professional theologians. Also, you are both professional theologians
pass our
by
competency
right.
exams here. In a
We
minute,
do got.
Yeah.
Please pray for us. We got our comp
We got
exams
big
and
exams coming up.
Let's go, boys. You got it. You got it.
easy in the bag.
Okay, so I want to start with one question and just hear what you have to say about it. What is comedy?
Comedy is the art of forgetting everything but what you're doing right now.
Okay, you need to explain that.
Yo, that's crazy.
Sounds intriguing, but I need
So, laughing is one of the only times as a person that you're so in the moment that no matter what you're laughing about, it doesn't matter. Like, laughter dissipates all other emotions for like a brief moment in time, and you are the most in that point that you'll ever be. So nothing will make you more in the moment than laughing if you laugh hard enough. So a hard laugh puts you into the moment. That's why it takes away pain.
Yep.
That's why it makes you forget about sorrow. That's why all that stuff. So if you laugh for a second, you're not scared. It supersedes all other emotions. It supersedes all other thoughts, the future, the past, everything. It is you now, currently, as you are.
Which, okay, I'm thinking of like St. Augustine in the Confessions, where he goes on this extended meditation about time and talking about how, does the past really exist? Well, no, it's kind of passed out of existence. And the future, we can anticipate it with our imagination, but that doesn't exist yet, right? And he goes through this process where he just continues to narrow and eventually he's like, the only thing that really exists is the present moment. And the present moment, it's as though it's like this one point that is like connected with God's eternity, right? He stands outside of time and he's like gazing down on us in this eternal present, but it's connected with, and so all the saints, a lot of the saints will talk about like, as often as you can just stay in the present moment, that's where God is. That's where the grace that he's offering you is. And so just hearing you say that is like laughter. It is. It's like a little taste of.
And then think about how all the saints from all our traditions across all of time are all well-known laughers. All well-known for being funny, all well-known for being light of spirit, all well-known for being in that moment. Sometimes they float, they're so in the moment.
It's true.
They're all up in that moment. All up in that moment.
Yeah. Every incredibly holy person are very like religious. I meet the nuns, they're always so funny. They're always laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. You say that comedy has to do something with more alike into living in the present moment. I've oftentimes wondered if comedy is actually, at least in ancient times, it was known as something tragic. So it was actually recalling something from the past.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess it's still something recalled from the past into the present. And I'm thinking about like Divine Comedy, the title.
But what you're doing is, and that's like they people say tragedy plus time equals comedy, right? That's like the big equation. But the idea is that you're taking a horrible memory or a feeling, and then you're taking it and it's with you right here, and then you put the laughter in, and the laughter creates a different thing. And now all you have is that moment. And in this moment, I'm not sad because I'm not back there.
Yeah.
And
in this moment, I'm happy.
And that's one of the things with truth itself, right? Truth is something that's recognized. Let's say a past event happened in life. Now we can laugh at that event because we're now more grounded in reality to be even able to deal with that thing.
Exactly.
That happened in a way that before we would not have been able to.
And the more space between you and a thing, the more humble you can feel about the thing.
Yeah.
You may feel like sort of like defensive or whatever. And the more time that goes by, the more easy it is. Like if you lie to your father or you lie to your friends, and then if you ever like 2 summers later, you're like, I didn't talk to that girl at summer camp, guys. I'm sorry I lied about that. Because you've had the time. There's no embarrassment there.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, we knew that.
Yeah, exactly. And then everyone's like, dog, you were talking to 0 women. We know. Like, that's a real thing that I did, by the way. So I had a whole thing where I was like, dude, at summer camp, I saw a girl. I went to scout camp. There's 0 women anywhere near scout camp. And I told all my friends when I got home. I was like, dude, there's a girl. She like, we hung out. She stayed the night with me. Like,
don't worry about it.
We kissed. She was in love with me. And then like, I told my friends later, I was like, guys, that never happened. And because they were like, it was something where they were like, we're gonna go meet up with these girls. Like, Shayne, you got this. You're like the guy. You're a ladies' man. And I was like, I'm not actually. It turns out I'm a liar. I'm not even kind of. That was really embarrassing.
No, it is funny. You'll hear, I've heard, my spiritual director will remind me, like the devil does not have a sense of humor. Like he can't get that separation from like his own ego.
Yeah.
And like being so wrapped up in himself. And so being able to like laugh at yourself can often be like a spiritual escape from desolation or like despair when you're like worrying about your own sins, or like if you can laugh at yourself, that's like you've separated from that. I think you've grown in humility, and now you can like rejoice in the freshness of God's mercy.
My spiritual director similarly is an abbot, and he's been at this game for a long time. He prays the Psalms 5 times a day, every day, and he's able to laugh at the Psalms, at something dark.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was sitting across the choir stalls with him. He was just like laughing, chuckling. Then I asked him a direction. I was like, I noticed that. What was that about? We were talking about like ripping eyeballs out and all this other stuff, and like blood and sweat and tears. And you were laughing. He's just like, this just like sin can be funny that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
something about our ability to deal with even the harshness that comedy kind of, or let's say the comedic moments enable us, dispose us to embracing reality in a way we would not otherwise be open to.
Yeah. This weird guy, he's from this country. Oh, it's this awful place, Australia. And
a weird guy from an awful country,
like Matt. And he told me once he told me that he remembered hearing his father make his mother laugh from the other room.
Yeah.
And then that made him feel safe. I think about that all the time. That's like a good metaphor for like so many things and so many feelings. I always think about like that laughter. When you say that the devil can't laugh, I've never considered this till just now, but every time you hear someone laugh evilly, an evil laugh is never abating the moment. It's never in the moment. It's always exacerbating a problem. It's always like related to something that's going to happen or has happened. It's never now.
Yeah.
And so like when you hear an evil laugh or someone laughs maniacally in a movie, or even like if you've ever, I don't know if you've ever like dated a Latina woman. No, I'm just kidding. You're probably gonna have to bleep that. I'm sorry, but no, but when they evil laugh, when they evil laugh, they do evil laugh. It is a future or past thing. It's never now.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. I've just thought about that. I'm like, that is interesting.
I'm also talking about Satan here. I was reminded of Divine Comedy again. Going back to that point, I'm remembering when Virgil and Dante they finally reach the pits of hell, and they get close to Satan and they touch him, and Dante's losing his mind. He's like, I'm not touching Satan. Like his wings are flapping in anger, and it's freezing this whole joint. I'm not going near this guy because he's going to react. They touch Satan. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like nothingness, right? At least laughter is something.
Exactly.
It's a recognition of something.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So we may have just answered this question if this is what, comedy has the potential to do, but I was like, what's your favorite thing about being a comedian?
My favorite thing about being a comedian is people will come up to me and be like, I was going through a really hard time, and just like your 4-minute thing got me through it. Yeah. And I do think that it is because laughter has the ability to push that stuff. I've been talking about this all weekend, and this is like the 5th podcast in where I'll say it, but Mother Natalia, a friend of mine, was talking about pre-superpowers. And then we're like, what are the nun superpowers? And I was like, I think a nun superpower is the ability where they have so much lightness and so much love and holiness, and they bring this sort of beacon of light wherever they go, that it's like in a video game where there's like lots of the fog and you can't see, and you always get an item and it pushes all the fog away and you can see and solve a puzzle or whatever. That's what a nun is. She comes into a room and all the fog pushes to the edges of the walls. I think laughter is like that. Nuns are walking laughter. They're like, what I mean? They're laughter
poetic,
incarnate, dude.
That's poetic.
And
that's so sick.
That's what laughter is. And so I forgot where I was going, because now I'm thinking about how cool comedy. That's why I love comedy. Yeah. So when people are like, I was going through a really hard time, and just watching your bit helped me, it's because they were recalling that they were being in the laughter, and the laughter itself, it wasn't me, but I did reach them in that I made them laugh. I got to their sense of humor, and that laughter pushes that stuff in their life against the walls and lets them see clearly around them. And to be in the moment is to be connected to God.
Yeah.
To be thankful, to be, and like people
Did you have that sense before you were Catholic?
Yes,
okay.
I did. I've talked about this before, but when I've always had I'm very lucky. I've never been spiritually dry, even as an atheist. I struggled to be an atheist. I had to justify it to myself constantly. That's why guys like Hitchens were so important to me. Christopher Hitchens. I had to watch the Christopher Hitchens lecture because I just felt like God was real. I needed him to tell me he wasn't over and over and over again.
Wow.
And I find that most atheists are doing that. They're that's the thing. I don't want to attack everyone who isn't Catholic, but I'm going to a little bit. And so
we don't do that, but we do that.
Yeah. Let's do it as a treat.
Exactly.
Just one time. That's the thing about the church, right? I tell you, like, I convert, people attack me, Protestants attack me, maybe some Orthodox people are like, what's the deal with the Pope or whatever. But as a Catholic, I've never had the reverse. I don't just see guys just going out and good. I'm sure it exists.
Yeah.
There's over 1 billion of us. We've got weirdos around.
Some whack jobs.
There's whack jobs.
I know some whack jobs.
Exactly. So
one sin to the right of me.
But like, if you're not doing, like, I'm forgetting where I'm going because you just you made me laugh in my head, and I was like, dang.
Atheists sometimes will attack.
Sometimes will attack. Where was I before that?
You were talking about you're going to attack.
Did you think comedy connected you to God even before you
Oh, yeah. So you're connected to God. And so you basically, like, atheists, you're fighting your conscience.
Yeah.
You don't know it, but you're fighting your conscience. When you laugh, you don't know it, but you're feeling connected to God because you're in the moment and you're feeling joy and you're fulfilling your purpose by being here with these people now, which is where you should be. And so I feel like your conscience, you're an atheist and your conscience attacks you. So you need to read the book. You need to do this. And that's why, like, I think so many people have to attack Catholicism. They have to comment. They can't help themselves but to be like, the Pope isn't real. He's a lizard, or like whatever, because they have to reinforce their conscience constantly because they are concerned they're incorrect. I spend very little time, if any, being concerned about if my dogmas are incorrect or if my church is wrong. My conscience is incredibly light in that way,
But also that's a light of faith, though, right?
Exactly.
So on the one hand, it's like you've assented to these propositions, but on the other hand, it's actually faith. Grace has moved in you to be like, this is true. 100%. And I don't have to sit here and justify them for you all the time.
Yeah, and I don't feel the need. Right. And then as I began to discern the faith and like want to consume Aquinas and all these other things in order to just like strengthen it and understand it, I find that when I was an atheist and I was needing to watch these lectures, needing to read these books, I needed to because I needed them to edify me. I needed them to tell me I was right. Whereas when I read Aquinas now, when I read, some theologian, Chesterton or whoever, I'm not reading because I need to understand or to do whatever. I'm reading because I want to understand. I'm reveling in. I'm not reaching for.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying.
You're motivated by love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it feels so different. And I watch people anytime someone says something and they ask me about Catholicism. I'm from this tradition. Can you tell me about this? I feel a sense of love when I want to correct them or talk to them. I always want to be really gentle. And I feel like I never get that back. And I do feel like I see myself in that because when I was an atheist, it weighed on my conscience.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it at the time, but if you feel the need to lash out, what's going on with your conscience? Yeah. Why are you lashing out at me?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude, I want to run this theory that Deacon Joseph has by you.
I've got a theory.
He's got a theory.
It's can I give him the theory?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So disappointed.
So here's my theory. I've been thinking about this. That I think there's a relationship between like the philosopher, the criminal, and the comedian. And I find you fascinating because you've been all three of those in your life. So I wanna run this by you and just see what you think about it. So
I think it's a stupid theory, by the
way. No, one of the things that is like the case with human life is that we kind of like construct worlds. So like God gives us the capacity to like share in his creative activity. And so like when a father, for example, teaches his son something about the world, what he's done is he has created a world in which that son now lives. So like this, I'll give you an example. When I was young, my dad, shout out to my dad, he was like reading The Hobbit to me. And
really?
Yeah.
John?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's awesome,
He used to read
bro.
to us all the time. And he would say like, like it was getting to an intense part of the book. Right?
Yeah.
And I was like getting nervous that maybe it was going to turn out like the good guys were going to lose. And I asked my dad, like, what happens if like Bilbo dies or something like that?
Great question.
And my dad was like, good always triumphs over evil. And I was like, always? And he was like, always. So like in that moment, my dad, like now I live in a world, like as a son, I live in a world now where like good always triumphs over evil. Right. And so, and this applies at like every level. It applies like with the father to his children, like the government over this, like we live in these constructs. Now it's possible for those worlds that we construct for people to live in to be inaccurate reflections of what really is.
Yes.
True. So like when my dad told me that, he was like mediating the truth to me in a real way, but like he could have said the opposite. And then I would have lived in this world that was not the real world, but had become the world in which I live. It's kind of like Plato's allegory of the cave.
Yeah.
Right? You got guys sitting in the cave.
Shadows.
They're being given a vision of reality in which they live. Okay, so we all live in these worlds, and we can sense, because it's like post-fall, and a lot of the things that we're given, the worlds that have been constructed, are inaccurate depictions of what's real, of what's God. A lot of us can kind of sense that. We can sense that, like, okay, I'm being fed something, and this isn't really it. Like it's maybe close, but like this world that's been constructed for me is not the real thing. And so the criminal, the philosopher, and the comedian, I think what they share in common is that there's a desire to like step outside of that world that's been given to them and be able to like analyze it. And the criminal does so by like stepping outside of the world and going below it. He's like, look, this is all just like, it's all really just about getting money anyway, or like this is the world in which we live in. So
I know the system.
I'm gonna like
here.
step outside of the system, and I'm gonna like do me, and I'm gonna like, because I figured it out.
Exactly.
Whereas the philosopher, he's like, I'm gonna step outside of this world, but like trying to get outside the cave, right? Like trying to go up towards the light.
Yeah.
And then I think the comedian does something very similar to that. Like he's just able to like look at the world and like see how funny it is, like see where the inconsistencies are, see where the goofy stuff shows up that can kind of help us recognize that the world we're living in is good, and a lot of aspects of it are true, but some of them are like we've gotten wrong because we're a bunch of, sinful losers. And so like you were fascinating because you were a criminal, early on.
Yeah.
You're also very much like a deep thinker, like a philosopher.
I do enjoy to think.
And then you're a comedian.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if anything I just said makes sense. And
no, it all makes sense. I would even say that the philosopher is trying to go up, the criminal's going down, and the comedian steps out, but then he steps back in and he's like, you guys are never going to believe what I just saw.
Exactly. That's actually the image that came to mind.
Yeah. And that's like the whole thing.
Right.
He's like, I'm going to say what you wish you could say because I stepped out. And I looked at it and like, but to step out requires like a certain amount of like self-sacrifice or humbleness or sort of, because you can mess up. If you step out is scary for sure.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of comfortable in here.
It's very comfortable in there.
Right.
Yeah. But
it's another thing too. Cause like when people, and thanks for because I've been thinking about this for a long time, but like, that's another way that like you, like making people laugh can like be a mechanism by which they step outside of the system and can maybe like see up to God for the first time, right? Because like they can see like, whoa, this is crazy that we're like this, and they can laugh at it and get some distance from it, and then as they're in the present, be able to like gaze upwards again.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you completely.
Okay, cool.
Just the idea that you're like the amount of people who are like, I was going through something terrible and your comedy saved my life.
Yeah,
like what if not God? What is that? Because that's not something I did on purpose. I talked about pooping my pants. I never at any point was like, I think Sally from Indiana is going to really vibe with this while she's dealing with her cancer diagnosis, you know?
Yeah.
And yet she did. And she watched it, and me pooping my pants and talking about it on stage helped her maneuver through a very difficult part of her life to the point where she was so aware of it, she wanted to thank me.
Yeah.
But like, I gave her the tools to be in the moment, and then while in the moment, you're just there, and like that peace, that love, that happiness, that's God.
Yeah.
So,
No, I have to apologize to you. Your theory's not that stupid.
Okay, thanks.
That you rejected.
That's pretty good.
My question is.
That's nice.
Thanks, man. That's what we're about here on Logos Podcast. So A little out of sequence, but I had this question earlier that I wanted to ask.
No,
you.
it's awesome. Let's go.
Me and my siblings love the Rush Hour movies.
Yes.
What do you think about them? And
They're
what do you think about Chris Tucker in general?
Firstly, I'm a Jackie Chan guy. Chris Tucker's fine, but Jackie Chan's my man. I've read his biography. I Am Jackie Chan. It's very good. He had a crazy life.
I thought you were making the statement, I am Jackie Chan.
No,
I don't know, man.
I do a backflip.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa. No, Jackie Chan rocks, dude. Firstly, Jackie Chan is Muppets adjacent because Jackie Chan was the very last silent comedian.
Whoa.
He does physical silent comedy like 1930 style, like the barn door falls off and you go through the window, which is a real stunt he did, and then later was done on Jackass. Shout out to those boys. It's a great bit. But he was doing these. He does physical comedy.
That's funny.
Jackie Chan's a comedic genius. I love Jackie Chan. He's one of the funniest people alive. Genuinely. And he's awesome.
Wow.
But Rush Hour is so good.
That's
We
great,
talk about,
man.
of course, I love these movies.
No,
I
just-
love all Jackie Chan movies. I wouldn't say Rush Hour is like at the top of Jackie Chan in his catalog. Would I even put High Noon above Rush Hour? I think Owen Wilson was better
Owen Wilson
than
was good.
Tucker. Tucker killed it.
He did.
Do you know that they were going to make another Rush Hour?
Yep.
I think
Do you know
it
what
got
happened?
scrapped.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I think that here's what happened. This is hearsay. I just heard about this because I'm a comedian, so I know people who write in movie, they're in the area. I had heard that they began to want to make it, and then they wanted to make all these decisions that were, for lack of a better term, woke. And Tucker and Jackie Chan were like, what are you talking? We're literally Chinese and black. Like, the whole movie is not woke. Like, it's funny. It's just supposed to be funny. And they were like, this isn't going to work for modern audiences, and they just never made it.
Wow.
Okay. Man.
All right. Well, this has been awesome. We're just curious before I guess we conclude. Like, what are you excited about the future? Like you're a comedian now. You're Catholic. This is kind of like a new era in your life. But like, what are you excited about? What's coming up?
What am I excited about? I have a new special coming out. I'm excited to see if people like it.
Oh yeah. When will it be out? Because I've heard you say that.
I wish I knew.
All right.
My production company does whatever it wants. I'm literally within a month.
Okay.
So that'll come out. That'll be great. I'm excited to get married.
I'm glad it's not figuratively
That's right.
within
You're
a month.
engaged.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
I'm engaged to be married. Let's go. So
Congratulations,
I'm going to
man.
get married. That's going to be so awesome. So let's get another sacrament in. Let's
Boom.
go for
Boom,
that.
baby.
And then that'll be really cool. I'm excited for, honestly, that's it. No, I mean, I've been moving and grooving. I've been doing things, I've got a YouTube going. I'm talking about my faith more often. I'm being more authentic and true to myself and less afraid of like how people will react to me. And that has like bared an immense amount of fruit. And I love it. It's very cool. So, yeah, I'm just stoked. I have a folder on my phone called Christ is King. And anytime someone sends me like a message where they're like, I was a weird tattooed guy and I saw that you converted and I was mad at you, but I'm an RCIA now. Like I have a lot of those and I just
Praise the Lord.
collect them, throw them in that folder.
Ugh.
I would like to grow that folder. That rocks. I love that.
That's
It's
so
just the
cool.
amount of people who like, even from if you were a non-religious person, even if you were just looking at it from like the most atheistic, like pragmatic point of view, the amount of people who are like, I was severely depressed, I couldn't stop watching pornography or whatever, and you just motivated me to like try, and my life is getting better. Like the amount of people who are, it's incredible. So I just love that. Just the people who are just felt like they couldn't take alternate routes or had to like go with the narrative, that are like, oh, I don't have to follow these rules. Which is so funny that not following the rules is being Catholic nowadays.
Yeah.
But
You're right.
it is what it is.
Yeah,
man.
read 'em and
Okay,
weep.
I'm gonna say this, and you're gonna hate it, but I'm gonna say it anyway, just because the thought has occurred to me. Like, hearing your story, listening to you speak, I get echoes in my mind of St. Augustine, and it's in this way, just like obviously the very rough early part of your life, dramatic conversion, but then also the fact that God's given you this gift where you have tremendous insight into your own heart and into all of these experiences that you're able to articulate. And so I'm like incredibly grateful that you exist. I had told you this in the hotel
thank
lobby.
you, man. Yeah, it's so
And-
nice.
yeah, and-
it's
and
like
I'm like-
overwhelming. Like, what do you do when someone's like, I'm just thankful you exist? You're like, awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's like-
sick. You know.
Should I dap you up now? I guess. That's how that-
yeah,
So
yeah.
seriously, I'm like, I am. So
It
just,
rocks.
just like, thanks be to God for you and for everything he's done in your heart and in your life. And thanks so much for coming on this podcast. I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, thank you for
to
everything,
say,
man. And I think as you continue in your own faith life continues to develop in your spirituality and your next step of marriage,
Yeah.
and then your future kids and your kids now and being involved and raising these kids. I'm excited to see what the future holds for you in your career in comedy or whatever else that takes you. I'm always excited myself to see men like yourself encounter our Lord and then take the Christian life seriously.
For
And
sure.
and that's something that I think we can all share and in this very room right now. So we all have love for our Lord. And I'm glad to see that in you, even amidst all of, the intricacies you've described to us in your own life.
Yeah.
But that's because our Lord loves us so much. He doesn't want to take away our personality. I think he's helped you become more alive. And to see that on stage, to see that on YouTube, to now meet you finally in person and to bring you here and share that life with the world on these cameras is something that I think is a grace that nobody else except God could have organized.
Dude,
So thank you.
You thought you were so profound, and then he also
You just had to do
came
it, bro.
through. Both of you guys are the best. Thank you so much, you guys.
Yeah, man.
I love you guys.
Thank you, man. I love you too. I love you too, man. All right.
I love you, bro.
Yes. What if we didn't say I love you back? It's like, yeah. All right, guys. No.
Anyway, subscribe, like, do all the YouTube
Did he
things.
just say he loved us?
Yeah, I think low key, hey, bro, but no homo though. Oh no, good. All right, guys, thank y'all for tuning into this episode of Logos Podcast. We love you guys. We hope you've had a great Christmas and y'all having a good start to this year. And as always, from Deacon Joseph and I, we hope that you're closer to the Logos Jesus Christ. And as always, God bless.